What if you don't need to live in pain and suffering? What if you could give up your karma and have a life of abundance and joy? What if you could start creating magic and miracles that you never thought were possible? Get ready to listen, share, and experience the magic that is you. Now, here's the host of Creating Abundance with Ease radio show, Dr. Helen Gitlevich.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease. And today our show is, are you thinking or do you know? How much time do you spend thinking and worrying? What if you know? What if those whispers of consciousness are actually true and not your thoughts? What if those thoughts are actually not yours? I'm a medical doctor who became Access Consciousness Facilitator and Akashic Record teacher, 3-day body facilitator, Reiki Master. I've done a lot of different techniques and modality and has always been searching for tools to create my life. And now I'm actually inviting people to a different possibility with their health, with their money, with their relationship. And I do private sessions, I do classes around the world and online, so they don't have to be live right anymore, using Access Consciousness and Akashic Records. Today's show, it's actually very interesting, thinking or knowing, because we are all infinite beings in an infinite embodiment. And if you're curious, you can actually read Dr. Dane Hare book that just came out. Well, it's not just came out, but it just came out on Audible's Body Whispering. And it talks about the embodiment. It talks about us being infinite beings. But you don't have to take my word for what is infinite being. And the infinite being actually the one that functions from being, receiving, perceiving, and knowing. When we contract, we start functioning from this reality, from electrical vibration instead of acoustical vibration. Electrical vibration of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sex, no sex. Basically, we're lowering our vibration. Because what are thoughts? What are feelings? What are emotions? They're electrical kind of stimulation that we perceive in our brain. And all the electrical stimulation in our brain happens through the chemicals in our brain. And they are stimulated by whatever going on in our lives, in the world. And it's not even our thoughts, feelings, emotions most of the time. We are like antennas. So, as I said, don't take my word for it. We're going to go on a journey of learning who we are. If you're listening first time, I'm using tools of Access Consciousness, and sometimes I'm using Akashic Records, but today we'll be using Access Consciousness that was created by by Gary Douglas and co-created with Dr. Dane Hare. Wow, I cannot talk. This morning, it's an interesting morning because things going on in the world, and we're all perceiving all the things that's going on, not just in our country, but in Ukraine and Russia, in Asia, in Middle East, and it's all of it. So let's go on a journey of who we are. You can close your eyes, or you don't have to, but make your eyes focus maybe a little bit more blurry, kind of like unfocused. If you're driving, please focus on the road. Ignore what I just said. But if you're not driving, if you're not operating heavy machinery, either close your eyes or unfocus them. Ask your body, ask your being to drop the barriers. Well, the body doesn't have the barriers, but we might have the barriers to the body. So just allow yourself to relax. And when we drop our barriers, a lot of times we automatically relax. We don't have to be vigilant, because barriers are the one that kind of like we protect ourselves, we are vigilant. And part of the thinking process is to put up the defense mechanism, defense barriers, boundaries, healthy boundaries, normal boundaries, all of those. How are they serving you in this moment? And if they're not, why don't we drop them? At least for the next, I don't know, maybe an hour while we're together. Because it's much easier to communicate without the barriers. Think about it. And I'm being facetious. What do you know about that? But if you have a barriers, it's like a wall. You're in a room with the walls around you. Another person in their own room with their walls around them. And how much can you hear what they're saying? If you can hear them, if they're yelling, and if you're yelling, at some point you might hear some noise. But is it actually exactly what they're saying? Or you hear the reflection through the wall? Mostly it's reflection through the wall, or like all the bouncing, all the kind of like thoughts, feelings, and emotions going through the wall. And you finally maybe hear 5% of what they're saying. Or, so right now, don't believe me, just drop your barriers and see how much more can you hear what I am saying. Or hear the quiet in your head, because a lot of those barriers are actually creating the noise from everybody that you're trying to hear, but they are so loud because they're trying to get through your barriers. Just let them go. And did you notice automatically you got bigger? You're no longer just inside your body, or maybe inside your brain, inside your heart, whatever you chose to be inside of, you're already bigger. Sense where is your body in relationship to you. Oh, your body is inside, right? Cool. So now, from the space of your heart, not your brain, and you don't even have to know if you're expanding from the heart, but just allow yourself get bigger. Expand, maybe a mile, maybe a kilometer, maybe 10 miles, 10 kilometers. And expand even more, more, even more. And how much more can you expand? Thousand miles, 1,000 kilometers, million miles, million kilometers. To the infinity. You're infinite being right now, right? What if you are that and more all the time? How much force are you using to contract to the size of your boundaries or barriers or barricades that you put up to everybody, to other people? What do you know right now? Your space right now, correct? Yeah. In that space, you might perceive the electrical vibration of your brain and all the thoughts, feelings, and emotion that's going on in there. How big are they? This small. And if you're watching me on the TV, it's this small. I'm putting like less than a centimeter or half an inch between my fingers. And your space is much bigger. Yeah, everything is inside of you. When you're oneness, when you're infinite. And yes, you are perceiving everybody else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But what if your knowing is more? What if you know? How much more is your knowing? It's infinite, right? And what's funny, because people say, I don't know. Is it actually true? Or is it one of the biggest lies in the world? I don't know is just the biggest lie in the world. Because we do know. We might not have a cognitive knowing. We might know, we are aware, but there are no words associated with that, just energy. Because our first language is energy, not the words. The words come later. Remember in the Bible, and the first word, the word, but the word was not actually like the word we think about it. It was energy, sound. It might have been sound, but it definitely wasn't actual word. Or it might be. It might have been, hi, I'm here. Hi, the world has been created. Hi, we are. I am. I be. All of that is the knowing part of us. I've done Zen meditation for years. And one of the questions or major question in the meditation is, who am I? And you continue asking that question and you discard everything that's not you. You're going after the knowing, who am I? And with that, it's time for our first break of the show. Excuse me. And you've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Inspired Choices Network, and I was hoping to sneeze at the break. But anyway, you've been listening to all of that, and we will be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Creating Abundance with Ease show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome forward, everyone. I'm Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease on the Inspired Choices Network. And today our show topic is, are you thinking or do you know? And in the first part, for you guys who are joining us now or listening for the first time, we did a little expansion exercise to show that, first of all, I don't know is the biggest lie of all. And to show that we are aware and we kind of like have all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions inside of us instead of outside, and how much force we are using to contract into the smaller us, into the smaller reality. So knowing or thinking the electrical vibration. And as we said, it might not be even ours. How much force are we using to create actually those thoughts as ours? I never knew that. When I first started Access Consciousness, I thought everything was mine. All the pains, aches, diseases. It was kind of funny when I would have a patient with some problem with their ovaries, and then I had something wrong with my ovaries. When I had people with heart disease, I suddenly developed a heart disease. All of that was kind of strange. And I've heard of healers who would treat breast cancer and they would get breast cancer. And I'm like, interesting. It's like coincidence. We think of a lot of things as coincidence, but there is no coincidences in life. It's kind of like maybe not related, but there is underlying theme. If we don't know, we're pretty much shutting our knowing. We're saying, oh, I'm not looking. I'm like, no. Nope. I cannot hear, I'm not seeing, I'm not saying anything. The three monkeys. Those monkeys pretty much show us how majority of us live our lives. And I have so many thoughts in my head about knowings, kind of ideas. So being ADD and ADHD, I'm kind of like, ooh, which shiny ball I'm going after. So bear with me. I'll get to the point at some point, or not. So you all heard the who does it belong to tool. We have an app. And by the way, there is a little glitch there. In order for that to work, it has to be open all the time for you to remind that the thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not yours. It's just about asking. But not just asking, being that question, who does this belong to? Let's actually play with that. Look at the thoughts in your head. And let's ask, who does this belong to? Or what does it belong to? Because it might be Earth too. Who does this belong to? And who does this belong to? Is it lighter? Is it quieter? And who does this belong to? And let's send all of it back to whoever gave it to you, whoever you're perceiving it from, wherever you're perceiving it from. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to know where it came from. It just came somewhere outside, but it's still inside of you. So you're perceiving it, but don't have to have it. Don't have to own it, and you don't have to implement it in your life or in your body. As simple as that. Because who does this belong to is pretty much opened me up to so many things. Like migraines were not mine. They were Earth asking for energy, and I ignored it. Because what happens if you have a thought and you ignore it? That thought will get louder. Did you notice it? If there is an itch and you ignore it, let's say you're sitting in the office in the middle of the meeting and your butt itches, and you cannot scratch it. What happens? That itch becomes unbearable, right? Yeah. Same thing with the thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensation in the body. It doesn't matter. If we are ignoring it and it's still there, it will get louder and louder and louder until we perceive it as unbearable. Itch, headache, pain, whatever. Or the thought is keep running on a loop, like PTSD. This is all about not ignoring. It's about asking. Could be who does this belong to? Or asking, what is that? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if yes, how can I change it? By the way, all those tools are part of Access Consciousness. And you can learn those and more in a bars class, in foundation, in other classes. They're amazing. They changed my life from being sick, having lots of complications after my surgery, depression, fibromyalgia, a lot of misery. And relationship were kind of like in disarray. Financially, I was in debt. So that changed all of this. But just asking those questions, asking how does it get any better than that? Because all those questions are getting us out of the thoughts, out of the thinking, into the knowing. Which one is faster? And it was funny because we were talking in one of the classes about thinking versus knowing. And the woman was like, but I always thought and I was taught to think. And I'm like, yeah, but which one is faster? And she immediately wanted, let me think. And I'm like, okay, did you notice? If you know, you just know. But the thinking takes time. You have to think about it. You have to rehash it. You have to make a decision. You have to, all of that, all those have tos, how long do they take? And is it actually all relevant when you know? It's not relevant. It's, if you know, you just know. Have you had time in your life when you actually knew? And did you follow through or did you ignore it? That's another thing. Because a lot of times we know, but we don't trust ourselves. And then we're like, no, it cannot be that easy. No, no, no. That person, there might be something good about this person. It cannot be what I know is being true. Oh, I know they're cheating on me, but no, 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 it cannot be. They love me. How often did that happen? And then you find out that your knowing was true. And you're like, oh, why didn't I listen to myself? Yeah, that. Because knowing is fast. You just know. And then you start thinking and getting out. Medically, actually, it actually makes sense. Because a lot of knowing comes from your cerebellum part of the brain. There is like different parts of the brain. There is cerebrum, which is your gray matter, where the thinking going on, the feelings and emotions. And then there is that part of the brain under, which is called cerebellum. That's where all the functions of breathing, heartbeat, all the circulation, every autonomic function of the body is going through the cerebellum, the middle brain. And, or actually it's the midbrain is under, but the cerebellum part is where the cerebellum cannot make mistakes. That's where our knowing, perceiving, being, and receiving is. It actually knows. It's funny how we ignore it. But I learned in college, I think it was in college, or maybe like in biology, that's what happens. So when you're doing the test and you have a multiple choice, your first answer, like the first inclination where to go, that's the correct answer. If you start thinking, you will move away from that and you'll make a mistake. It saved my ass many times because, as I said, I have ADD, ADHD, and in college or even medical school, I have a hard time studying. I couldn't put my ass on the chair and just sit and study. I learned fast. I kind of like give me everything in one picture. And by the way, if you have kids who are ADD, ADHD, or autistic, gives them all the information instantly, like in a picture form, they will get it. If you start explaining to them and try to put it into kind of like the categories, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., you lose them. They get bored. And that's what was happening to me in school. Luckily, I grew up in Russia, and at that time, there was experiment. Well, I probably created that. But for a few years, they kind of like chose a few regular school, public schools, as an experiment where they would do accelerated program for all the kids. And they didn't care about the kids who were not as smart. So I pretty much had physics, I think in grade 5 or 6. I had chemistry in the 7th grade, and I had calculus by the 7th or 8th grade. Pretty much college level. When I asked my uncle for help, he looked at the problems I was solving and he says, wait a second. I did that in my college, in my university, in my sophomore or junior year. So for me, it was fun. I could solve them. I could memorize stuff, but I could solve the problems. So where was I going? Oh, about our knowing, because we know our brain, that cerebellum, does not make mistakes. So when I couldn't study, I would just go and ask, okay, what's the correct answer? And I didn't have access at that time, but now that I have access, actually, I used my knowing much more than thinking. And wow, time flies. It's time for our second break of the show. And when we return, we'll talk more about your knowing and thinking and how to play with that. And you've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Dr. Helen Gitlevich, on the Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Magic and abundance are everywhere. What if you could tap into abundance and start creating your life with complete and total ease? Working with Dr. Helen Gitlevich will give you exactly that, total ease in creating abundance in your life. Dr. Gitlevich creates classes all over the world, both in person and online. She works with you to create abundance with your money, with your body, with your relationships, with all areas of your life with total ease. Connect with Dr. Helen Gitlevich at creatingabundancewithease.com. Her contribution in your world will be a noticeable gift in a very short period of time.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Creating Abundance with Ease show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome forward, everyone. I'm Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Inspired Choices Network, and today our show topic is, are you thinking or do you know? And in the first two parts, we did expansion, so basically experienced the acoustical vibration of infinite being, of knowing being, receiving and perceiving, versus electrical vibration of the finite being, which when we use force to contract us into the smaller, kind of like this body or even parts of the body, and go into thinking, feeling, and having emotions. And with all of that, in part two, we were talking about the tool, who does this belong to? Because 99% of the thought, feelings, and emotions are not ours, and how the cerebellum part of our brain, which is where the knowing is, never is wrong. But then we don't trust that knowing, ignore it, and go to thinking, which is very slow and takes us out of the correct answer, even on a test. And you can go back to the recording if you missed it and listen to it again if you like it, or if you'd like to listen again. Because a lot of times I do listen again to some shows and some classes, because sometimes in the first time when I listen to that, my thinking, or they say, if you're thinking, you're stinking, my thinking interferes with the knowing that maybe I could have from the class, from the podcast, or from anywhere where we are. And hi, Christine, welcome. Because we have a chat. By the way, if you are live with us, you can always go into the chat room on Inspired Choices Network website, join us and ask any questions, and we'll address it in the show live, or you can join us in a Zoom and then be facilitated if you choose to after asking the question in the chat. So basically, you have a lot of ways of connecting and playing because the show is live right now. If you're listening to the recording, well, you might still ask your question energetically, and you might hear the answer later in the show. It's kind of magic sometimes. Because as I said, our knowing is greater than we think it is. A lot of times I'm tapping into the audience that will be listening now and in the future and ask, what would you like to hear? And go into my own knowing. And you can do the same when you're presenting or when you're doing things, when you're looking for that answer. Please don't look for the answers. Just go and ask for awareness because answers always contract. Answers, you can have one right answer, right? Correct answer, best answer, whatever it is. It's one, maybe couple, maybe few of them, but it's not infinite possibilities of knowing. The answers limit us. Because a lot of times when we choose something, when we're looking at something, there are infinite possibilities. When we choose something, more infinite possibility opens up. If we start thinking and deciding and looking for the answer, we pretty much cut off a huge amount of possibilities that could have created something different, something more. And yet we are going in through one way that we decided is the right way. And then a lot of times, at least for me, it created havoc instead of chaos. And oh my God, this is another topic. And by the way, I did some shows on chaos and order, and you can listen in the archive. But right now, look at your life. And I hope your life was beautiful, wonderful, totally no problems, and you used your knowing 100%, 200% of the time, trusted yourself, been grateful for yourself, been vulnerable with yourself, never lied to yourself. And with all of that, your life is joy and glory. How many people have that? I didn't. So what if it's not a wrongness? How often did you make yourself wrong for that? What if it's just choices? Instead of looking at as a mistakes, what if you look at them as choices that created more knowing for you? Not thinking, but more knowing. Because when you chose something that didn't work, did it create the knowing of what you don't like, what you like, did it create more for you in that respect? Can you be grateful for quote unquote, and I'm doing air quotes, mistakes? Just choose. Choices create awarenesses. Choice create more than you can possibly imagine. And yet we are thinking a lot about the choices. Oh, if I choose that, oh my God. And you already project what it will create. You already expect that it probably will fail. How often do you do that? Because I know a lot of times before I would kind of like, it wasn't choice, it was decision, because I would go through all the possibility I could imagine. And by the way, our imagination is limited only by what we know, what we can imagine. Not what we know, but what we can think. and what we can think that we know. So we go through the imagination, and we go usually through the worst possible outcomes. And if the worst outcome is not the worst and we can deal with it, then we go for it, right? At least that's what I used to do. Not anymore. Now I go with the energy. It was interesting because when I was going to Ukraine, I kind of looked at the energy and it was very light. Could I predict that the war would happen? No. Did I perceive the energy of the war? Probably yes. And yet it created greater for me. I've grown so much from the experience of being there, of contributing to people on the road, contributing to people in line. Like for 3.5 days, we were standing in line of cars to cross the border. And people would say, "Oh my God, you suffer so much." No, I wasn't suffering. I was with people that I enjoy being. I was with 3 cats in the car who were amazing, amazing beings that contributed to us, and we contributed to them. And we contributed to everybody in line. And you could see there were a lot of angry people. There were a lot of people who were upset and suffering. But how much of that suffering was because they've decided they suffered? There is a kind of like a story, anecdote, joke about, but it's actually true, how different we are from animals, how we perceive the pain different from animals. The animal, they get hurt, they feel pain, they get over it, right? The person, they get hurt, they feel pain. And now they didn't get over it. Well, they might have physically, but then emotionally, they feel hurt about being hurt. And then they go, "Oh, I'm hurt because I got hurt. And now I'm suffering because I'm suffering because I'm hurt. And then I'm suffering because I'm suffering because I'm suffering because I'm hurt." All of that creates that vicious circle where we are in a constant state of suffering because we're suffering. And that because is the reason and justification that keeps the suffering in place. What if we stop justifying, stop suffering because we suffer and just get over it? A lot of people do that. They just get hurt and they get over it. They don't suffer because they suffered. Just saying. And it's time for our third and final break of the show. And when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about what's coming, about the future classes, and also a little bit more about thinking and knowing. And you've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Inspired Choices Network. And we will be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
This is the Creating Abundance with Ease show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome forward, everyone. I am Dr. Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease. on Inspired Choices Network. And today our show topic is, are you thinking or do you know? For you guys who are joining us just now, we've been talking a lot. Which one is faster, thinking or knowing? And guess what? You have to think about if it's faster, and then it's not faster. Thinking is definitely not faster. We looked at us being infinite being and functioning from acoustical vibration of knowing, being, receiving, and perceiving versus electrical vibration of our brain, in our mind, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. What if we don't have to? What if it's about choosing something different? Also, we did meditation, expansion, and got an awareness that a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions do not belong to us, and use the tool of the week. Who does this belong to? And the questions of, what is that? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if yes, how can I change it? And you can find out more about those tools and more in the classes that Access Consciousness is offering. You can go to accessconsciousness.com to find out the classes near you. I'm going to be facilitating Bar's class probably in April. It's not on the website yet, but just keep looking, and you can always join the email list by signing up on my website, creatingabundancewithease.com, and download the free meditation of expansion. It's in English right now, but I'm working on updating and creating it in other languages. With everything that's going on in the world, I believe this meditation might help to shift and change your energy. And because by expanding, we start functioning more as acoustical being, as infinite being. And by virtue of that, raising the vibration of the world, because it's just like when we flip the molecules, it creates a butterfly effect. When we raise our vibration, the other people's vibration have to go up unless we choose to go down to their level. Please don't go down to their level. Just keep vibrating at a higher vibration and they will join you or not. It will be their choice. You don't have to sit in a cesspool of thought, feelings, and emotion. You can be in acoustical vibration of knowing, being, receiving, and perceiving, and being, and in the vibration of space of being, the gratitude, the love, the like a lot of other spaces, because emotions are the lower harmonics. And when you ask us like, but isn't gratitude emotions? Like, no, it is a space of being, just like love. And next week, you can join us, same time, same place. It's going to be in Russian. Вы думаете или знаете? It's pretty much similar topic that we're talking right now, but in Russian. And even if you don't understand the language, the energy is still there. A lot of times we don't even realize that by listening in the other language that we understand cognitively, it shifts and changes us even more because it bypasses our cognitive mind and goes into where knowing, being, receiving, and perceiving is, meaning we go into the cerebellum functioning where there is no mistake. And it raises our vibration this way by allowing us to utilize our knowing of energy. And I know I'm speaking fast because we have only a few minutes left, probably like 5 or 6 minutes left. And you can always connect to me on social media. I'm pretty much in most of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and I know Russia doesn't have Facebook or Instagram, neither is China. But you guys can connect in the Telegram chat. I have a special Telegram chat for Russian speaking people around the world. It's called Helen Gitlevich in Ukraine and everywhere else. Um, i- okay, never mind. We can put the link in the show. It's actually on my link tree. If you go there, you can find that. You can always connect to me through Messenger, through WhatsApp, Telegram, personally, email, through the website. Um, Recently, people been connecting with me on heal.me website. So there is multiple ways. Right now, there is how to become money workbook in Russian that's going on. It started about a month and a half ago, and it will go on for another 3 months. We're delving very deeply into how to become money workbook. Also, planning to do foundation, body classes, being you classes. Just keep checking on the website or contact me. And if there is any specific class that you would like to see in your area, if the regulations with COVID are kind of like done, I'll be happy to come or do a class online for you. If there is any special topic you would like to talk on the future shows, let me know. We'll touch on that. We'll put it on the schedule. If you would like to be a guest on the show, let me know as well, and we'll talk about that. So, to reiterate, stop thinking, stop going into your emotions, and start functioning as an infinite being. Start trusting your intuition, because your intuition is basically your knowing. Some people say that it comes from the higher source. Well, you are part of oneness. You're a drop in the ocean, and yet you are the ocean itself. When we expanded in the first part, and you can go to the, if you missed that, you can listen to that in the recording, because this show goes to over 200 platforms in audio, like SoundCloud, YouTube, and video on 50 channels of TV shows on Binge TV. So you can find it iTunes, Spotify, you name it. If you can find anything that we are not on, let me know. We'll play with that, at least on the free ones. Just allow yourself to be vulnerable, because the more you drop the barriers, and we talked about it in the first part, when you have the barriers, you cannot hear other people. Like if you have walls, if you're in your room and the other person in their room, and sometimes in the other house, you cannot hear each other. You can perceive, but you cannot hear. What if we drop all the walls? What if we dropped all the barriers and start being intimate with all of us, and especially with yourself? Because when you're intimate with yourself, you're actually intimate with oneness, with the universe. When you stop lying to yourself, you can hear the whispers of consciousness, whispers of your body, whispers of your knowing, and maybe you can be truly that space of beingness that you be. And that's my invitation. And as I said, we will be next week, same place, same time, 11 o'clock Central Daylight Saving, 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Savings. And
Thank you for
see you
choosing to
soon.
listen to Creating
Bye.
Abundance with Ease radio show. Dr. Helen Gitlevich will return next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have fun using the tools of the week in your life and start creating magic in your life and your body.